was a night to forget for Leganes at home at Butarque on the heels of 3 games to start their season without a loss. Eventually, there was going to be a day where they felt defeat, and that was the case on this Saturday night match day 4, taking on Mallorca just outside of Madrid. In Leganes, there were chances for both sides in the first half. Both sides trying to come forward, trying the operative word, because this from Takuma Asano, one of the best chances of the game, really, from Mallorca. Asano getting his head to this one. We know how good Mallorca can be on the ball with their heads. This a prime example of that. It's usually Vedat Morici who gets into the area like that. This time, though, Asano makes the effort, hits the crossbar. Japanese international coming over from Bochum during the transfer window. Leganes' turn, and for them, as was often the case, it was a chance of needing to test out the keeper Dominic Grief, and these were the types of shots that we were privy to seeing. Oscar Rodriguez with one that he'd like to have back. Leganes need to be a lot more clinical than this if they have hopes and dreams of staying up this season. Here was another half chance for them. In fact, this was their only shot on target. Pretty tame in the end. Only shot on target for the first 75 minutes of this game. Came off the head of Diego Garcia. Easy enough for Grief to handle, who was on his way to a clean sheet. He started 3 of the 4 games for Mallorca this year, with Leo Roman starting the other one. Next chance coming in transition. It was Dani Raba looking up and Munir El Haddadi going down in the box. You knew he was never going to get a penalty for that. El Haddadi with his first start for his new club, 7th club in LaLiga for El Haddadi. One of a couple of Leganes players making their first start for the club. Adri Altimira also making his first start, and we also saw Renato Tapia, who had played all 3 games this season but hadn't started yet. And on the other end, Asano had another opportunity to try and put this one away. Unable to do so, though. Brilliant vision from one side of the pitch to the other, though, and again, it was Vedat Morici, the visionary, sending Asano forward. Excellent first and second touch from Asano. Next chance came for Mallorca with a little link-up play. Tony Lato knocking this one into the arm of Tapia, who in his first 3 appearances hadn't summed up more than 45 minutes on the pitch. He would play the entire first half of this one. There you see, keeping his arm in without any problems, and this was looked at for about half a second before it was determined that there was no problem with that intervention from the Peruvian. Mallorca continued with opportunities, and this was a sweet little feed in for Dani Rodriguez, who was looking for Morici at the back post. But an important intervention from Jorge Sainz. And at first blush, you thought maybe Morici missed his chance. It was 2 excellent passes to get to Morici, who stayed ever so slightly onside, but Sainz was able to get there first, and his touch put Morici off, even though it still ended up goalward. That forced Soriano into what was a necessary push save. Leganes weren't able to get depth in their attack all too often. This was one of the rare times that they did. Prasanak would find Oscar, who would then feed it into Javier Hernandez, and on the cutback, just not quite there. El Haddadi in the mix. Cleared out of harm's way, though, on a rainy night in Leganés in the end by Mallorca. Next chance came for Javier Hernandez, and this is probably one that he'll like to forget about pretty much immediately. And then we saw Pablo Maffeo go down with an injury. Maffeo with what seemed to be a hamstring issue came out before the halftime whistle. Antonio Sanchez was his replacement. Continued on in the first half, and Hernandez's service was good from the left, that time in search of Diego Garcia again, one of two players to score in double figures for Leganés last season. You see Marc Domènech, the 17-year-old, linking up this time, and it was what led to the goal, because Murici, who's normally great with his head to score goals, assisted one this time. He found Daniel Rodriguez, and from one head to the other, Mallorca took the lead just shy of halftime. Big Kosovan got the job done. Well executed from one end to the other. Tony Lato to Murici, who laid it off, and Rodriguez got up higher than anybody else and put it home. Leganés, who have been so stout defensively for the last season, let this one slip, and that turns out to be the difference in the game. Once we got to the halftime whistle, changes were necessary. There was almost a second goal immediately afterwards as Rodriguez returned the favor and fed Murici. He went down in the box, although this wasn't looked at for long either. Out came Soriano to intervene. It was close, there was some contact. Not enough for the VAR to take a look at it. Or at least be convinced of anything else. Just before the halftime whistle, one more little deflection shot. Mallorca really started to grow in confidence. Once we got to the second half, there wasn't a whole lot for Leganés. Just a chance for Domènech, who was trying to create, and he fed Murici, who tried to do the unselfish thing by setting up Asano. You're normally used to seeing him play that type of ball goalward. Instead, he was looking for his second headed assist of the night. Although it probably wouldn't have counted anyway, because on that little swing and a miss by Domènech, it did touch his hand. You'll see here. And so that probably would have been called back. Leganés just couldn't find it. They were looking for opportunities. This was one that they were looking for as well, for a potential handball. It wasn't ever going to go their way. Tony Lato did try to get his arm out of the way. Also hit his chest and his thigh. No issues from the VAR room. Leganés, who made 6 changes in this game, never had the opportunity to bring themselves back level. 6 changes because Tapia went out with a head injury. That was a concussion substitution. Therefore, they were allowed to make that sub plus their traditional 5. Didn't seem to make a difference, though, for them. Juan Cruz came on as a substitute, tried to link up. This was a great ball in from Ivan Neyu. And again, a goal-scoring maven of a year ago, Diego Garcia, just flat out missed it. That's one that you've got to get your head on, and in the top flight, you're only going to have so many opportunities per game to score. We were wondering what would happen when Leganes went a goal down in a game. It hadn't happened yet. This was a shot on target, technically, from Juan Cruz. Driving Borja Jimenez slightly insane. It's the first time that Leganes had trailed in a game this season. Johan Mojica showed a little bit of magic in this moment to feed Sergi Darder, the two substitutes linking up, and a chance as it ran all the way through for Antonio Sanchez. He wasn't able to put it home. And then a foul from Mascarell, which would see him booked. It just never came to fruition for Leganes, who have it very difficult at the other side of this international break. They've got two different Madrid derbies to play on the road against Getafe and Rayo. It's going to be a difficult stretch for them, but they've started well still. 5 points from their first 4 games that they will surely take. They've got a lot more work to do this season. Nothing doing in any of the remaining moments of the game for Leganes. There was no question that all 3 points were to belong to Jacobo Arrasate's Mallorca, his first victory as the new manager in charge. Urici's assist, the goal from Rodriguez, and it finishes Leganes 0, Mallorca 1.